no smoke up in the sky. Pretty soon you'll learn to fly. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna go when the volcano blows. Well, Michael quickly say to me, Mom, you better watch your feet. Lava come down soft and hot. You're loving me now or loving me not. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna go when I fall. 'Cause I just left this planet Earth. Where I go, I hope there's rum. I know there's gonna be a lot on the island tomorrow. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna go when the volcano blows. Well, I don't wanna land in New York City. I wanna land in no Mexico. Don't wanna land no 3 Mile Island. Don't wanna see my skin glow. Don't wanna land Comanche, Skyport, or in Nashville, Tennessee. Don't wanna land no San Juan Airport or the Yukon Territory. Don't wanna land no San Diego. Don't wanna land no Buzzards Bay. Don't wanna land no Iota. I got nothing more to say. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna go when the volcano blows. No, 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 no.
All right. Happy Thursday night, everybody. We've got Miss Angie Carter's in the building. Hi, Angie. Thanks for being here
Wes.
on the show. I'm
Glad
Wes
to be
Seiler.
here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you are too. Welcome to the show. So every Thursday night we get together with Preserve Navarre Live, and it's an awesome time. We've been doing this now, Angie, for gosh, it's been 3 or 4 months at least. So
Yeah,
setting
I've
up in
seen
the
some
studio.
of them.
Yeah, it's been great. We've had Doc Rudman on. We've had
Mm-hmm.
Ray Eddington on. Bobby Burkett has been on. We've had Carmen Reynolds has been on. Gosh, just a whole slew of great
Right.
people. Yeah, it's
My
been a lot of
friend
fun.
Dave Glassman.
Dave Glassman, yeah, he was
Yeah.
on about a month ago.
Yeah.
He did a fantastic job. I had Chris Kerb on. He educated me on stormwater management and a whole lot of stuff.
He's
so
a very smart man.
very smart guy, absolutely. But I'm excited to have you on and talking about CORE and the things that you've done. I mean, we've known each other now for what, 2 or 3 years, I feel
Yeah, a
like?
couple years.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
been a little while.
Yeah.
And love what you do, love your involvement, the stands that you've taken up at the county and just around the area, active in the Republican Party, doing stuff with them, just a whole bunch of different great causes. So it's going to be fun.
Thank you.
You guys let me know if the sound and the is coming through and the video and all that stuff is going through. I know Tom is on here. Looks like we've got a couple other people, about 5 or 6 that have jumped in already. We recently switched our internet, so hopefully that's coming through, so let me know. But happy to have you guys watching the show. This is a live show, Angie, so that's the most fun part of this, is that people, they can come in, watch it live, give us comments, give us feedback, and we can interact with them. And then it's recorded as well, so people can come back and watch it and then contact us and stuff and let us know what they think. So a lot of fun. Cool. Okay, so now the way we do this is we've got a few sponsors who make it possible. One of my favorite ones that I mention almost every show is the Panhandle Shop.
Yeah, I love his flags.
Yeah, so Tom is amazing, great, and he says the stream lighting and sound are good, so that's awesome. Thank you, Tom. But yeah, that's their email address. Tom and Helen Tuttle, so that live in Navarre, great friends of ours, and they make these beautiful flags that we give out as gifts and things like that. I know, in the military we're doing this all the time, and these guys, they'll custom make it and put your name on it or whoever you're giving it to. They do all kinds of great work. They did one for me when I got back, so I got one of those big one flags from Chuck Pullman in Jersey and Nancy when I got back. There's my son there in the corner. So just amazing woodwork. They do a whole bunch of other stuff, and they sponsor what we're doing, make it possible. Another one, I'd love to introduce you to Elizabeth Kurz. I don't know if you know her.
I have not met her.
Okay, she's come up with us to the county and gotten involved in our group. But before that even happened, she is a business owner here in Navarre, active in the Chamber of Commerce, And she is a coach. She is a coach when it comes to business management, being a CEO, starting a business or a charity, whatever you're into. She is a person who's gone through a whole lot of training, and she will work through your brand, how you manage it, what you're trying to get out there. And then she'll bring a psychological aspect to it as well, of getting into the subconscious, the subliminal messaging that you're putting out there. Is that in line with what you want to project? And then she's all about having a positive mindset, something that really helps me. I know we're going to talk about politics here in a minute. And gosh, it's easy to lose your positive mindset. And somebody like Elizabeth.
It is.
Yeah, so she's great. So I love getting her involved with folks and helping them with their business and causes. So maybe somebody for you to talk to here pretty soon with all you're doing. And then a couple more. I don't know if you've eaten at these places.
Both
Stripes?
of them.
Okay,
Love
good,
them.
good.
Love them.
Robert
Good guys.
Reyes, yes.
Yep,
Robert
met
Reyes
both
on
of 'em.
Stripes. Yeah, so he's been on the show before. Andy Dees. I don't know if you've been over there. It used to be Broussard's back in the day. Yep, a couple years ago. He worked out a deal, and he owns it, and it is amazing.
Yeah,
what
he's
he's
doing
done.
a good job over there. Been over there a couple times.
Yeah. Okay, look, we've got a couple other people that jumped on the show now. So Nancy's on here. Sound is good. Randy's on here. He says, hey, Angie and Wes. So a friend of ours as well.
Hey, Randy.
There we go. All right. And then got to talk about this for a minute.
Yes.
The Veterans Treatment Court. So how much has Carmen actually told you about this one?
I talked to her in the very beginning when she first started talking about it a couple years ago.
Okay.
I actually was in the middle of a conversation with her
Great.
and Tom up at the county attorney up at the county building.
Yep.
one
Yep.
day,
She is
so-
passionate about this.
Yeah, she is.
A lot of
She's a
folks.
go-getter. I'm such a treasure for this
Yeah.
county.
So where this is at is it started with Carmen speaking up and saying, hey, why don't we have this? Why don't we have a Veterans Treatment Court, a specific plan for veterans who find themselves at the end of the rope? I mean, just
Right.
in a tough spot. Typically, they've committed some type of offense. Where do they go from here? They've clearly
Right.
fallen down from where they were in active duty. And why don't we have a court that is going to recognize that, see if there's any service-related conditions, and that we can treat and get them back up on their feet, right?
Right.
Escambia has it. Okaloosa has it. Why not Santa Rosa County? She was initially told there's not enough veterans here that would need that, right? We don't have that
Yeah.
issue to the degree that we need our own court.
Right.
She looked into it. She found very different results, right? She was like, oh, hold on a second. Everybody in Santa Rosa County is connected to a military person or
Right.
veteran in some kind of way, right? And then she started saying, we do need this. Here's the numbers to prove it. And then Carmen, once she gets something, like she's going to take it.
She's going to
She's
get
going
it
to take it all the
done.
way to the top, and she did. And
Carmen
so now,
and I have worked together quite a bit,
You know.
so yeah, I know how she is. She's very determined, and she will get the job done. I could always trust her to do whatever I ask her to do and get it
Exactly.
in timely manner. So
yeah. So now it's with DeSantis. He's approved of it. So thanks to Senator Broxson and Representative Rubman and all the folks along the way who helped out to make this a reality. So it's coming. So thank God for her. And then she helps out with this show quite often. And that's kind of the point, is you have those kind of folks because, and I'm curious to get your perspective as someone coming from the north end, but I know a lot of people, when they're coming from outside Navarre, they know the beach. They know Mardi Gras Festival, that obviously it's a great tourist location. Come out here in the summer and enjoy, the ocean, the Gulf, maybe go fishing. It's a huge part of the appeal. But it's the people of Navarre that really make it what it is.
right,
And I'm not talking about folks online fighting, which is what we see all the time right
Yeah.
now, right? I'm talking about the folks like Robert Reyes, right?
Right.
Who's running a darn good restaurant. I'm talking about NFL players who are playing on Sundays in the fall, right? They grew up right here and went to Navarre High School. Rick Landreth is another one, war hero. His nephew's a friend of mine, Jake Landreth. He was portrayed in Black Hawk Down and grew up right here in Navarre and Holly. Kevin Lucas is another guy that I've met along the way. Amazing, doing medical research and advocacy for innovative techniques in the medicine field. I mean, I could go on, Angie, about the same people. And I know there's plenty throughout the county that would fit that description as well. But we like to showcase them and let people know, do you realize who's living right down the street from
Right.
you?
Well, and Wes, even people that are not famous,
Yeah.
there's some really good people.
Wholesome
doing what
people.
I do and what I've been
Yeah.
doing for the last few years, I have met some incredible people that
Yes.
live down here. You're one of them.
Oh, I appreciate
you
it.
and your family.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's just multiple people I've met through this
Yeah.
process that I've been in, kind of got dragged into a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. That that's one thing. as much as I really don't like politics, I have been blessed to make some good relationships out of it. So I'm blessed
Yeah,
by
me
that.
too. And doing this is a fun way to do it because it kind of pulls you out of like the social media frenzy. You know, it's
Right.
amazing. Like I've had people from across the spectrum sitting right here in this chair. I've had people on the grassroots side. You know, I consider
Right.
you on that. I've had developers. I've had people in all kinds of different construction. I've had people who disagree of different political parties on
Right.
here. But when you get them one on one and you give them a chance to talk about their
Right.
perspective, all of a sudden you find, there's something I didn't know, or maybe if y'all were to engage more civilly, we could find some type of compromise, or like when they get out of some of those more heated debates and discussions and get a chance to kind of reflect, right? Something that I mentioned, Elizabeth Carter, she's very good at that.
Yeah.
But you get a chance to kind of like flesh out what you think and talk to somebody. It ends up being a lot more healthy and
Right,
positive.
and to go along with that, I've had multiple conversations with county staff, some of the county commissioners,
Right.
the county attorney. I mean, they're just people.
Yeah.
And most of them I can have a pretty civil conversation and I feel like I'm, getting to know the person and
Right.
kind of breaks down those barriers.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of talk back and forth and kind of start to understand each other.
Yeah.
Some of them will listen, some of them won't, but some of them you kind of walk away and go, okay, well, that works.
Yeah. Well,
Or others are like, yeah, I think that's probably not going to happen,
Right,
but something
yeah.
like that. But yeah, that's conversation, and I think we're going to get into this, but I recently got married, and my husband and I talk about that all the time. Is communication is key.
Yep.
And
Good
how
call.
you talk to people, what to share things, but you have to do it in a civil manner.
Right.
And if you are just constantly, attacking people, and I know you've been the victim of that multiple times, but it's one thing to disagree on the issues and the principles, but to disagree on personalities and then to attack somebody because they think differently than you and I know we're going to get into all that.
Sure.
But if you can, understanding bringeth patience.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
if you can start to get to
Yeah.
know somebody, and if I become your friend, it's kind of hard to get mad at you, even if we don't agree on
Right.
something.
Well, I had a teacher once who taught me that people tend to judge themselves by their intentions, right?
Right.
Whenever you're saying something, well, my intention was good,
Right.
I was trying to help you with my, if it came off bad, my intention was good,
Right.
right? We always judge ourselves by our intentions, but other people, we don't always, we assume their
Right.
intentions. We judge them by their effects. So I'll
Right.
give you one. So my wife and I have been married we're coming up on 10 years, right? And one of the things that we did early on, because I realized I was pretty bad at communication, and I'm working on it. But one of the things that I did that was terrible was I would say, I told you so, right? Whenever, something would mess up or whatever. Or, and I would
That
say,
went over well.
No woman wants to hear I told you so from a man, like least of all, right? And I went to my doctor about it, and I said, when I'm saying that, it's actually out of love. It sounds condescending, and I don't know what to say, but it's out of love because I'm saying, hey, I warned you about this, and I feel like you didn't hear me, and I was doing it because I loved you, and I don't want you to suffer pain, right? I don't want, please balance your budget because we don't, then we won't overspend, and then she overspent. I told you so, right? But it doesn't come across that way.
No.
And so I'm judging myself by my intention, but the effect, she's like, yeah, I didn't get any love when you said that, right? Like you're a jerk, right? And so what can I say that communicates, I love you, I'm looking out for you, please help me communicate better next time so that we don't find ourselves. She's like, I don't know, anything besides I told you so. And like there was a banana on the kitchen table, and I said, I'm just going to say banana. And so that's been like a running joke in our marriage is like, I get so mad that I'm like, banana, or I work it into the conversation. I'll be like, that's great. Hey, do you want to go get some bananas with lunch today or something like that? And it's just like, it makes us laugh, but it's that communication of working on it. And what happens all the time, like kind of go into politics for a second, people try to project intention on you. And it may not be, sometimes it may be true, sometimes it's not. People think that I just moved to this area, because I want it to be a town. They think that I don't love it. They think that I don't know anything about it. They think I'm a Yankee or that I'm a liberal. And I'm like, why do you think all those things? Like, none of them are true. Like, I grew up in Memphis, like I've been down here my whole life visiting this place until I moved here and became a resident, right? Like, and I love it, but if we don't slow down and ask, hey, what is your intention, right, behind what you're
Right.
saying, then we're in a world of hurt with,
Right.
people assuming it. So I agree that
Well,
communication.
and I think that,
Yeah.
that's what I see. A lot of people just assign you your agenda.
People do it to
they
everyone.
just think you have an agenda.
They do it to everyone.
When what you really want to do is just, my
people.
motto is just do the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
And so that's everything I'm motivated at in the county level is just, I've always gone up there and tried to reason with
Yeah.
them and just do the right thing, man. People don't trust you anymore. And so I get accused of all sorts of agendas. And,
Right.
Wes, I have never once stood up there in front of that county commission ever with a personal agenda.
Right.
I've never gained anything. In
Yeah.
fact, I took a year off of work
Yeah.
and I had to
Yeah.
pay my bills out of savings just so I could try to save my community and
Yeah.
try to make a difference in my community.
So let's talk
And
about
instead,
that.
I'm
Yeah.
the bad guy, and I've got all these evil agendas. No, I just want to live in a great community where people
Right.
listen.
Well, and a huge way to get to a person's intention is their backstory, right? How they got to this place, and that's what I wanted to get. Well, I do this for everybody that comes on the show because I always find it fascinating because I learn stuff that I didn't know about you, right? If we've known each other for a couple of years. So here's a couple of photos that you sent me. You should be very happy because many of the photos that I get sent are in black and white, and I'm not kidding. So I get those from Jersey Jerry and others, and then I have to try to put them in color. So these
Yeah.
are beautiful. But yeah, so who are these folks? So let
the
them know.
top picture is my daughter.
Okay.
She's Felicia. She lives in
Felicia.
Nashville,
Awesome.
just outside of Nashville,
Oh, I
where
love
I
Nashville.
spent a
Nashville's
lot of
beautiful.
time there. Was in politics there as well.
Okay.
And then the bottom picture is my husband.
Awesome.
We've known each other for about 7 years, done ministry together, and
Very cool.
just recently got married. And,
Yeah, congratulations,
we
y'all.
were,
That's
we were
awesome.
friends for a while. We became best friends
Yeah.
and decided why not.
Yeah.
So
Tell me
yeah.
about some of the ministry stuff that y'all have done. That's interesting.
We work with a ministry called Christian Motorcyclists
Okay.
Association.
Very cool.
And it's basically trying to reach bikers
Nice.
for Christ.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've done that.
That's great.
Do a lot of different things and ride Harley Davidsons.
Yeah,
So,
that sounds fun.
it's even better, yeah.
We've got a very similar ministry at my church. That's awesome. I'll have to connect you guys
Yeah.
with them because they
But
just
how
started.
I got here, Wes, is
Yeah.
I lived in Nashville.
You mentioned
for,
that with Felicia, yeah.
for a good while, and like I said, was in politics up there. I was president of the Exchange Club up there, very well
Awesome.
connected up there. Had a very good thriving business up there.
Yeah.
We had a multi-million-dollar company, construction company of all things.
Really?
A lot of people don't think I really have much to say when I
Yeah.
go to the county, but I speak from some knowledge that I have brought to the table. But we had we actually did military housing
Yeah.
for a couple of years at Camp Lejeune in Fort Knox. But anyways, that marriage ended in a divorce. I remarried the love of my life,
Yeah.
and he ended up passing away in a plane crash.
been
And
very
so, after about a year after he passed away,
Yeah.
I had lived here before,
Mm-hmm.
and I had an RV and decided to come down here and be one of them horrible snowbirds everybody hates.
Yeah.
And just ran into some old friends that I'd gone to church with and all, and I said, why did I leave here? I love it here.
Right.
And so I moved back down here, and so I've been here now 9 years.
Yeah.
And the reason I stay involved is because this is where I plan to be for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I want my community to, I'm sure you deal with it because you live down here on 98, and I think we've
Sure.
talked a few times while
Yeah.
you were coming from the base and stuck in traffic. The quality of life here has changed dramatically, and I
has.
saw that happen in Nashville.
Oh, yeah. And that's something a lot of people that have been here for a while have I think they've grown numb to it. You know,
Yeah.
they just kind of take what they're given, well, the county paved a road, so that's something.
Right,
It's like,
yeah.
that's all they expect at this
Yeah.
point. They've come to expect too little, especially if they don't see where the money is actually being spent
Right.
and some of the dynamics in play. But yes, the outside perspective too is interesting. So I grew up in Memphis, first Alabama for a while, and then by the time I hit second grade, we moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and that's where I lived for 12 years. Where I started to get interested in politics was when I watched very similarly the quality of life change.
Right.
And what had happened was the city of Memphis annexed our area, right? So the city
Yeah.
came in, swallowed it up, the school system changed, the whole thing. And I'll never forget my dad saying, man, if only we had been incorporated, this wouldn't have happened. Because there's a community right next to us that did have a city government, a small town,
Right.
and they didn't go for that one. They unincorporated. All they had to do was annex it, right?
Right.
And I learned, wow, you have to defend and preserve what you love, right?
Right.
You got to stand up for it.
Exactly.
And you've got to organize yourself a little bit, or else you're going to fall prey to bigger interest, right?
Right.
And that's when I started getting involved in politics, because my little perfect world that I was growing up in got shattered.
Right.
Overnight, it felt like, and all my friends are moving away and all that stuff. And I never forgot that. And I said, look, there's a place for prayer. There's a place for going to church. My wife works at a church, absolutely. But, unless you're a minister or on staff over there, once you pray, you got to get out and do something. You
Right.
got to stand
Yeah.
up for what's right.
Yeah.
And that's where it got real for me. So I carried it down from
Right.
Tennessee down here.
Yeah.
And see a lot of similar. The other one I was thinking of was Ray Eddington, because he's from Chattanooga.
Yep.
So we got all of Tennessee
Yeah,
covered.
we
We'll
got
have
it
to have-
covered.
we'll have to have a party or something, celebrate that.
Well, and
But-
and too, what I did in Nashville a
Yeah.
lot was a lot of volunteer work, trying to help people, trying to make a difference. The Exchange Club I mentioned earlier
Yes.
is the premier service organization of America, and the reason I was really passionate about it was one of our tenures in that was the promotion of Americanism, and I
Right.
love our military.
Yeah.
So when I moved back down here, and
Yeah.
the military's here. My husband's a veteran, so
Yeah.
I love the
Awesome.
military. It's
Yeah.
always been a thing, but so I had that heart. I've always wanted to help people. That's what brings me the most joy. And then when I came down here, how I really got dragged into this deep into politics was that vote up in Chumuckla.
Yeah.
That happened with Harold Downey, and that happened up at the county commission. And I had a friend of mine call me, and he said, "Hey, we need some help." And so I went to their meeting. Long story short, 125 people showed up to the county commission. And, we got 5 guys there. I'm like, these are our neighbors,
Yeah.
And it was very rational and reasonable. I understood their side of it, but they didn't have to do what they did.
Yeah.
They made the excuse that they had to do it because it had been future land development or whatever. But I sat there and I watched 25 people go up to the podium.
Yeah.
And one of those people was 90-something years old.
Yeah.
Had to get help on a walker to get there, and stood there and cried. At least 3 of them cried. And I sat in the back of the room, Wes, and I sat back there and I watched all these people. And when the vote was taken, it was yes, 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 yes.
Right.
And I just sat there stunned.
Yeah.
And I went, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What is going on here? And I
Right.
went home, and literally for 2 days I was shaken.
Yeah.
And I prayed about it, and I said, God, what are we going to do?
Right.
Because, we know we don't have a voice in Washington, D.C. That's so far out of the realm. We really don't have much of a voice at the state level.
I was going to say, yeah.
Thank God for
Yeah.
Dr. Rudman. He's starting to give us a voice out there, and he needs our support and our help.
Yeah.
But I thought, surely these 5 guys that are our neighbors, we can go talk some rational and common sense, and let's work this out. And then I went home and I started looking at campaign finance reports, and
Yep.
and I was like,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
what in the world?
Yeah.
Man, we don't even have a voice in our local community.
Well, see, and a lot of people don't recognize what you just said, right? Like, I know exactly what you mean, but what she's talking about is you can go on the county website, votesantarosa.com, and you can actually see who is funding who
Right.
and what they're spending their money on.
Right.
And I would love to see, like, the printout of people who've accessed that website, because it's probably like me and you, and then
Yeah.
like Carmen and like 5 other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I have a few friends that check it.
But like that's information
Yeah.
that is required by law that people post, right? And so you can see, this person has $20,000 in their account,
Right.
and they spent 10 of it. Here's what they spent on. This person hasn't raised any money,
Right.
But you look on social media, you might think they're all equal or whatever,
Right.
and then you realize, oh, I see where that person's money came from. This guy is funded by all the same companies, while this guy's out there
Right.
getting $20 donations from the people.
Right.
Right? So all of a sudden the actual landscape makes way
Paints a
more
picture real
sense.
quick, doesn't it?
But if people don't know to look on that site, they're just kind of
Right.
they're kind of like, I don't know. I see a sign on the 98. I guess I'll vote for him.
Right.
It's got a fish on it, so he must be a Christian.
Well, and Wes, you ran for the water board.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't the county commission or anything like that, but campaigns are expensive, and so
Yep.
I understand they have to get money. But all the signs that we see around, and I've heard people say, well,
Yeah.
they must be popular because they have all these signs. what I've learned is that those are the people that are bought and paid for because they've got tons and tons of money.
Right.
And because all the big developers and businesses and, all
Yeah.
that give them plenty of money. So it's not the popularity that because they're usually not in front yards. They're usually on development property. And
to me, the problem is when there's like, a this for that. When there is a type of exchange going on. It's like, I'm going to support you, but then you're going to do this specific thing, right? That is, to me, where it gets a little shady, right? If you're supporting somebody and donating to them because you believe in their principles and ideals,
absolutely,
of course, But if it's like, nope, and I expect a deal, I expect preferential treatment, that's not how it should work, right? We should be going with the best quality services for the lowest bid, right? Like, that's what we're trying to do, is to get good products out there, not, oh, he's my friend, so I got to hire him. He donated to my cane, so I have to hire this guy.
And you shouldn't get special favors if you give them $20 or $2,000 or $20,000. Exactly. You should not get special favors. And every candidate that we helped in the last election, I sat down in the public eye and said to every one of them, I even said it in some of the public meetings. You owe me nothing. Because if you owe me something for me supporting you, then I'm no better than the people I'm fighting against.
And that's you talk about the water system election. I told them I want to bring the water system under sunshine law. So unlike the rest of like government services or public services, water system is not under sunshine. Therefore, they can have meetings in private. They don't have to report any of their finances.
That's just wrong.
And so I said, I'm going to stand for that. And then I want to make sure that golf course sticks around. We have a lot of houses in Navarre. We only got one golf course, and I don't want to see it turn into another residential development because we got plenty of that, right? Those are my principles, And hey, if you want to get involved in the golf course, sure, but I'm not going to give you preferential treatment. I'm just going to make sure that it stays a golf course. And so that was kind of like the clarity that I was trying to give to folks while I was running, But then you see what that gets turned into if people make us about another issue. And he's only doing this for incorporation, which of course was not my intention. Right? But people fall for it. And some of that's kind of like the last part is you mentioned communication. Communication is tough in politics because
it is.
Like you say one thing, here's my intention, and immediately it's twisted into something else, and so it's just kind of a free-for-all.
I think some people make a living at twisting communication or try to make a living anyway.
But tell me about some of these folks, because you've got this experience having done this. You mentioned in Nashville. Some of these folks are at the national level, right? Like, that's a former senator, I think?
Jim DeMint from the Heritage Foundation. Met him up in Nashville. Actually, the top picture there is Phil Valentine, Uncle Phil, who was a big-time conservative radio talk show host. Had some great conversations with him. Asked him one time, I said, Phil, I don't understand. We send good people to Washington, and then they become like everybody else. What's the deal? And he said, well, Angie, you have to look at it like this. It's all about the party. So they just want to be invited to all the great parties. So they get there and they get wooed by that. And so Washington is, and sadly, I hate to say it, but I see it's sort of like that at the local level as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, state level. I mean, hey, I want to be a part of. I don't want to be a part from. I want to be a part of it. So.
And sometimes you got to just stick by your convictions, like no matter what happens.
And then, of course, the bottom one there is my friend Dr. Joel Rudman.
Talking about somebody who's standing for his convictions. I mean,
he's taken some heat, didn't he?
He absolutely has.
But you know what? That's when it's like Donald Trump. He takes a lot of heat, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
And so I'm all about these guys that stand firm. Ray Eddington takes a lot of heat, but Ray Eddington is about as solid as you can get.
And treats everybody fair,
He's a very
he told
good
me
friend of
he was
mine.
on this show, like I mentioned a couple months ago, and he's like, I support people's right to make a choice.
That's exactly
He's like, I
right.
don't agree with you on the issue, but that's not going to cloud me from recognizing that you have a right and standing to bring this forward. I was like, wow, like I'm not used to people
and that's
having that
the
kind
bottom
of,
line. I wrote the quote
conviction.
down. I pulled it up this morning. I didn't pull up the whole speech, but Abraham Lincoln. We've all heard this before, and this is what I stand on right here. And I know you've got the core photo on here of We the People. But Abraham Lincoln said that the government is of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And unfortunately, the government is not for the people, by the people, or of the people anymore. That's the sad part about it. And so, that's what I've been trying to do is really what I love to do is get people, educate people, inform people, and then get them involved.
Yeah.
Because I was one of those people that sat at home, Wes, that said, I'm just one voice. What can I do?
Right.
They won't listen to me.
Right.
And I don't know how many times on social media here in Santa Rosa County I see people say, it won't make any difference. They don't care.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? They may not care if you go to the Board of County Commissioners meeting.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't sometimes, as you saw Monday. But they do care if you show up at the ballot box.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah.
so you show up in droves at the ballot box, and we're going to talk about that a little bit because I brought the statistics of who's voting and who's not voting.
Right.
But, you know, you show up at the if you can't do anything else, show up at the ballot box. But I have seen at the time that I've spent at the county level multiple times where hundreds of people show up.
Yeah.
There's one, it's an Ashley Plantation up on Quintet. They were going to put a Dollar General right outside their door.
Right.
And they said, oh, no, you're not. And they showed up in orange shirts by the droves.
Right.
And they changed their mind.
Yeah.
And you know what? The property's up for sale today because they said no Dollar General going there because those people were voters.
Same thing with Juanas. Yeah. Like they
Yeah.
mobilized. They're like,
Yeah.
hold on a second. You
But-
know, we're a staple of this community. Yeah.
You know, Wes, you and I go up there, or you and I and Sherry Chapman and a few other people, they don't care because, you know, it's been said in interviews, oh, it's just people that don't like me or picking on me. No, I don't dislike any of them. I don't allow anybody to let me hate them. You know what I mean? But what I do is try to get people, educate them enough. And usually when you educate them on what's really going on and you start, show them the campaign finance reports, you start connecting the dots and showing them what's really going on.
Yeah.
They all of a sudden seem to get pretty active.
Yeah, because
Because
I
they
think
get
that's part
mad.
of it is that people do care. But I mean, like my wife, for example, she's working a full-time job, pregnant with our third, got 2 kids at home that we're raising, right, and then everything else that goes on with modern life, right?
Right.
So for her, politics is a brief conversation,
Right.
and if I start going on and on and on about this, that, and the other, right, she's gonna like, okay, bottom line, what can I do? Like how do I get involved, right? And simplifying it in a way that's factual and that it's translatable to somebody who's juggling all the things that life brings, right?
Right.
That's the challenge, right?
Right.
But tell me about CORE, because you mentioned it, and it's Citizens Organizing to Restore Ethics. How did this come about? Because that's how I first met you, was when you were setting this up, and I was like, oh, this is really cool, and it got me interested. But I'd love to hear the backstory on it.
Well, it started with that vote on Shemukla that I told you about, and I went home and I prayed about it for a few days, and I knew a few people because I was a part of the Republican Party and going to the meetings. And so I said, I got a couple friends that are activists that are doing something.
Yeah.
Let me call them. And, it's like you have your group. I don't know how many are active, but say you have 10 active that are really active.
Yeah.
And I have my group over here that's got 4 or 5 active. And this group over here's got 5 active because we know how it goes. You get a group of 50 and maybe 10 really are participating as a rule. And so I said, well, if we all come together, so I gathered up a few friends, called a few friends and asked them if they would sit down with me.
Yeah.
We all sat down and I said, look, if we pull together and when I need help, you come help me. And when you need help, I'll come help you and I'll bring my people.
Yep.
And so it really started out really connecting resources, pulling resources, because we saw that just a few people at the county, nobody was showing up at the county commission meetings.
Right.
And so we set up a system. We had a database. We had a calls to action that we could send out to, that's grown to about 700 people. Then we have your organization and many other organizations in the county. We work with almost all the grassroots organizations that they send me stuff that they're doing. I send them stuff and we all share it.
Yeah.
So now you've exponentially multiplied your reach.
Yeah.
And
what's the umbrella? Like, how do you define like good ethics, right? If you had to, what's the dividing line of like, hey, you're part of this, and I'm not sure about that group. Like, how did you make those kind of calls?
I think it's just doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You have no personal agenda in it. You're not going to get any money. You're not going to get your wallet padded because of it. It's the same thing that I expect of other people is what I expect of myself.
Yeah.
And so
that's huge, by the way. I don't want you to like breeze over that point, because think about the difference. And I heard one of my friends say this, and he said, I see politicians go bad because they start out, they've got one source of income, and so they're doing politics to help.
Right.
Once that becomes their income, now they have a lot to lose.
Right.
Now they start playing the game because they don't want to get voted out, because then they're going to have to find a
Right.
new job. And he's like, for some of them, it's fine, right? Like they'll put it out there because they've got a backup plan.
Right.
But the ones that like this is their like income and they've overspent their resources or whatever,
Right.
they're fighting for their livelihood. They're not fighting for the people anymore. They're fighting because they want to, another
Right.
boat, and they're not going to get it without this, or
Right.
So it changed that dynamic. So not having an ulterior motive, having your own source of income separate from
Right.
this. I mean, our country was not built by a bunch of people who were politicians and
No.
professionally like doing this in some fancy courtroom. I mean,
Right.
it was like guys came together like and thought they were going to die, for
Well, they
making a
came
choice.
together. They
Yeah.
came up with rules and regulations and laws, and then they went home and lived under those
Exactly.
laws. That's what they
Exactly.
did. They were
Right.
and that's. I almost hate to
Yeah.
even call them leaders, or I call them public servants, because that's what they were designed
Yeah.
to be, and they've forgotten that at every level.
Right.
I see that at every
Right.
level. We have lost the whole concept of a public servant is
Yeah.
to come to serve your fellow citizens to the best of your ability, and then go home and live under what you've created.
Right.
But they don't do that.
Once
And-
it becomes lucrative, the incentives change,
right.
right? Because now you don't know, is this person doing it for the people, or are they doing it to become a millionaire? Right? It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
And especially when they make those judgment calls and they say one thing like, I don't know, like
Right.
when those campaign accounts get bigger and bigger and bigger, then it's like, well, hold on a second, what are you getting out of this beyond,
Right.
the act of service and helping people?
Right.
So I
Well,
think that's
and-
important. Anyway, I just
And let me
wanted-
say this too, Wes,
Yeah.
because some people say, well, for whatever reason I'm upset with them. I ran a multi-million-dollar construction company.
Yeah.
The year that we divorced, that company was a $3.2 million company.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with people making money, working hard,
Yeah.
doing the right thing. And Wes, for us to get to $3.2 million, we never once did anything unethical.
Right.
We competed. We didn't ask them to shove anybody else aside. We just did the right thing. And we had people calling us and asking, hey, will you come bid this job?
Right.
That's what happens when you're ethical and you do the right thing.
I've had
So
a
I
lot
don't
of
have a
people-
problem with money, but we all know what the Bible says.
Right.
The love of money is
Right.
the root of all evil.
Right.
And that's where it crosses the line. And unfortunately, politics, there seems to be a lot of people that get that. And you know what? I think they went in, I want to believe they went in with purity in their heart, that they wanted to serve and they wanted to make a difference. Because I've sat on that side. I almost ran this election, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
I really did, but I have too many other things going on.
Sure.
And I had people calling me. I had county staff asking me to run.
Yeah.
And I thought about it a lot. And thank God Bobby Burkett stepped up when he did,
Yeah.
because I went, phew. But I thought about it, and it's okay to go and serve if you think you're going to make a difference. But it's when that job becomes so important that you won't let it go, like you said, that all of a sudden now you're working behind the scenes and you're creating opportunities for people over other people. And there's just a lot of that goes on, and it kind of makes me sick, to be honest with you, because I'm going to guess these guys, that all of them were good people when they went into office.
Right.
I don't know what happened to them.
And like you mentioned development, there's a smart way to do it. There's an ethical way to do it, which is keeping the concerns of the folks in mind that you're providing this for. Same as any other business, right? You can be a developer. And I know several who have a conscience and are thinking about that and saying, hey, we need to do this. We need more infrastructure here. We need stormwater mitigation there. Right? Like they're doing that. It's the folks that do it and they don't care. Like they know they're putting out a cheap product and they couldn't care less. Moving on to the next, right?
Yeah.
It's that where it starts to become dangerous. So I agree.
Yeah.
But you talked a lot about kind of the dynamics of voting and how that's so important. When you look at the voter turnout and who's registered and all of that, again, going to that county website paints a picture of our county that I think is pretty instructive, right?
Yeah.
Like as to where we're at and what we need to do. So
Actually had a friend send me that today because I was busy doing some other stuff, and when I looked at it, I was like, so this particular statistic here, Wes, what I really wanted to talk about with this is, I got hit pretty hard because I went to the county. As you know, there's a lot of vitriol in this county about Democrats. And, anybody that's not falls into one category, the way I look at it, we got independents, we got Democrats, and we got 3 different stages of Republicans in this county.
Yeah.
The Republicans can't get along at all.
Right.
And so, you know, I got hit because I went up there and I said, we are not a Republican county. There is no county in America that's Democrat or Republican, because I'm pretty sure, you know, the other party lives there too. And there are independents, and then there are people that just don't care. My husband could care less about politics.
Yeah.
It makes him angry.
Yeah.
He don't even want to talk about it like your wife. But the truth of the matter is that a county commissioner is supposed to serve the citizens of that county.
Right.
And if you look at this statistic, there's over 50,000 Democrats and NPAs in this county, and that's not even reflective of the people that have nothing to do and don't even register to vote.
Right.
At this time, I believe that we were at about 140,000 citizens in this county.
Yeah.
And if you add those up, they don't really add up.
Right.
So, you know, we are a Republican-led county. Mm-hmm. We are a Republican majority county.
Yeah.
But we are not a Republican county. We are a very diverse county, and getting more and more diverse all the time. Since I think the 2010 statistics said we had about 140,000 people, the 2022 statistic based on USA Facts says we have 198,000. And you know what's happened in this county for the last 2 years.
Yeah, our estimate was 207.
We're well over. Yeah. 207.
Mm-hmm. That was our estimate.
So if you take the numbers, which I did today, I kind of played around with the numbers. If you take that extra 60,000 people that have moved in just up to 2022, and you play, just say, you know, 25% of them are either Democrat or NPA or not involved at all, that's another 15,000. So you've got, you know, 70, 80,000 people that live in this county who vote and who use the services, who live here, who drive on the roads, who pay taxes. And are they not being represented because we have people that can't stand them?
Right.
You know, and Wes, my mom and dad were Democrat. Mm-hmm. I grew up a Democrat.
Yeah.
I was a Democrat.
Yeah.
Let me just say that.
Yeah.
But that was the Blue Dog Democrats. They were very conservative. My parents were the working party. The blue-collar Democrats were all about the working party, and things have changed over the time. And most of the Democrats know their party has left them, but do you think they want to come to a Republican Party that hates them?
Right.
You know, and that's what I've been trying to do, is have those conversations that we're all Americans.
Right.
I can't stand those terms, Republican and Democrat. I'd be something else, but I want to vote. You know, I want to have my say-so in the primary. Yeah. But I wish we'd just get back to being Americans again.
So, like, again, what's where the military stuff kind of helps, because we know that when we put on a uniform, we have to be nonpartisan, right? Like, you still have your beliefs, but you go onto that base, and short of a bumper sticker on your car or something minor, like, you have to treat all of your airmen the same, right? Or soldiers, if you're on, you know, whatever. You treat all of your folks the same, no matter what they think. So you turn it off. You just, you know, those beliefs and stuff are still there, but I'm going to treat everybody same.
Right.
But you go home, you take the uniform off, and then you attend a meeting or something like that, or you turn on the TV, and now you can voice more of your opinions.
Right.
So, again, kind of like Carmen was talking about with, you know, the Veterans Treatment Court, where it's like, no, we don't have enough military people for that. Like, we have enough military people in this community who know how to treat the other side with civility and respect, because we freaking do it every day. And who know how to serve all people, because we don't say, oh, we're only going to defend the country for the Republicans or the right. We're going to defend the country for all people, right? So we're not going to show that bias and favoritism. That doesn't mean that you give up, you know, your allegiances. And I hear this all the time, because people attack us, like with this show and this group, and they say, how can Preserve Navarre tolerate the fact that there are Democrats that are part of it? Or we have one of our board members who's a Democrat, right? And like the other 4 Republican, but one of them's a Democrat. How dare you allow her that? I'm like, she's a hard worker. She's a sweet lady, and you should get to know her.
Right.
She's not even a Democrat anymore. I think she's like independent or something, right? But whatever, even if she was, like, who cares?
Well,
judge the person based upon their values and integrity and how they conduct themselves. And if you don't agree on everything, okay.
Right.
Where are you?
Right.
If one of the members of, let's say one of the members of our group who's a Democrat started coming to Republican meetings, we might have a very different conversation. Hey, what are you doing here? Are you changing? Like, what are you doing here? This is a Republican meeting, so we're going to be talking about conservatism the whole time. But if you're going to the freaking grocery store, right? Like, cool. Hey, can I get those apples for you? Right. Like, you treat people differently based upon the context, but always with a sense of respect,
Right.
which I think is what you're saying
Right.
and getting at.
Well, and I was president of the Exchange Club in Nashville. My vice president was a Democrat,
Yeah.
a liberal Democrat. We had about a mixed party.
Yeah.
You know, I'm part of several groups here in Pensacola and the Santa Rosa County area, and all of them, none of them say if you're a Democrat you can't be a part of it,
Right.
other than the Republican Party meetings that I go to. But Wes, just the point that people miss is what happened in the last presidential election and the one before that. It was split almost 50-50, was it not?
Right.
And if we don't start talking and having conversations and being Americans again, and start saying, hey, talk to me about why you believe what you believe.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why I believe we all agree there are problems in this country.
Right.
And if we don't start talking about how to solve those and trying to make some compromises about how do we solve these, we are going to lose our country because, I don't want to be a Democrat, and I don't want to talk to the Democrats, and I don't want to talk to the Republicans.
Or people
if
find
we
themselves,
don't start being Americans again, we're not going to have an America.
Yeah, because people find themselves in these awful, dark places to the point they're willing to kill somebody.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
That's what's terrifying. That's what
Yes.
you're talking about, is people get into their minds that, like, this is the end of the world, right?
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, if this person wins, then, like, everything's gone.
Right.
And it's just like gasoline is put on that fire, and then they find themselves in this terrible, dark place where that's like, they think that's a valid option.
Right.
Right? And it's just, it is so sad. It's like, hold on a second. Like, get out of your bubble for a minute.
Right.
You know, and realize, hey, you've been told one side of the story, not
Right.
the whole side. And again, that's where so many of you know, folks that have come from different places and stuff like that can help. But even people that have done that, I think a lot of times they fall victim to social media stuff. Even if they've
Right.
got experience from elsewhere, they just get into these little bubbles and, you know, and then they don't get a chance to engage with somebody.
Well, and we know that we're purposely being divided by I call it slicing the pie. Every direction you can slice it, nobody's going to eat the pie.
Yeah.
You know, they're slicing the pie, and if we don't start putting the pie back together, we're in trouble.
And not just
so,
during an election year, right? So Chris had a
Right.
comment here. He says, "Hi, Wes and Angie. He's really interested during an election year how commissioners put a little different face, and that's what you got to look out for. Is during an election year, it gets much more confusing because all of a sudden now, people are trying to tell you what you want to hear,
Right.
to get you to go one type of way.
Right.
It gets much more exacerbated. I really appreciate what you do because it's kind of like that sustained education.
Right.
I always say that, like, an election is like a test, right? At that point, it doesn't tell you on the ballot who to vote for, anything. The election is the test. What do you think of when you see this name, right?
Right.
Like, and if you're like scrambling in the voting booth to be like, oh, I don't know, let me Google him, like, it's test time,
Yeah.
baby. Like, it's too late
Right.
to do that kind of stuff.
And you know what's really cool, Wes, is I think the last election I probably had 50 or 60 people call me. I had people taking me to coffee.
Yeah.
Said, "Can you tell me what you think of these people?" And you know, I won't go into. I'm not going to tell somebody else how to vote, but I would sit down and I would say, "This is who I'm voting for, and this is why.
Right.
This is who I'm not voting for, and this is why. You make up your mind because that's the way it should be. That's the right to vote.
Yeah.
The right to vote is I can choose whoever I want to for whatever reason I want to. And you and I may not agree on the same candidates even in this election.
Right.
But you inform yourself, I inform myself, you know, and so I'm grateful that I've gained the respect of a lot of people in the county. I had somebody text me just today and said, "Hey, I know you're keeping up on things. Can you help me out? Because I haven't really kept up on things." His wife had cancer and some different things going on. So, you know, I try to educate people as much as I can, and I try not to be biased, to be honest with you. I don't say, "Hey, you need to vote for Wes Seiler because, you know, he's my friend."
Yeah.
And I've told people that. I mean, I kind of got some of my friends mad at me in the last election. They wanted me to vote, you know, "Hey, you need to support this candidate."
Yeah.
And I said, "I don't know this candidate."
Yeah.
And they said, "You just trust me. He's a good one. He's with us." And I said, "Then you better set up a meeting because I want to go sit down and talk to him."
Yeah.
I'm not going to my friends and say, "Hey, Wes, you need to go vote for my husband because he's my husband."
Well, see,
Or because my friend, or, you know, because Wes says he's a good guy, or because Angie says he's a good guy. No, I want to know who I'm putting out there.
well, see, that's
You
the
know,
that's the fun
so-
part of local politics is you can call them.
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
you can take Jerry Cooey out to Scooters, you know, and
Yeah.
like buy him lunch, and he'll tell you all about, let me tell you about infrastructure for
Yeah.
the past 40 cycles. You know,
Yeah.
like you can take these guys out for lunch because they're here, they're down the street. You know,
I think Jerry owes me lunch. I'm pretty sure.
he probably does. He probably does. But you can get educated pretty easily in the local level if you just spend more than a few minutes doing it. If you
Yeah.
actually take the time and look at some of these things, and that's what you want to increase is the education, which will lead to higher turnout, right?
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to go back on one thing you said because this has really struck me in this election because, we have a candidate in this race. I'm not going to even mention the race, but we have a candidate in this election that 6 months ago looked totally different, talked totally different. I mean, just
Yeah.
everything. And it has been like a transformation.
Yeah, Chris.
And-
this is what Chris was talking about.
Yeah, and it's like all of a sudden they're, the just most respectable people you've ever seen. And 6 months, 8 months ago, they were mocking the citizens and just,
yeah,
you cannot take in an election year the way somebody is.
Yeah.
You have to, you just don't even listen to anything they say. Get to know them, like you said. Go down, sit down, have a conversation, and build a relationship with them. And I have built a relationship with almost every candidate that I've endorsed, and that's on the core page for anybody that wants to know who I'm endorsing. I know these people. I've dealt with them for years now. This is not just I just met this person.
yeah.
So, and I know some of the ones that I'm not endorsing very well. I've had many conversations with them.
Yeah.
So I'm basing that on facts, not on feelings.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we live too much by feelings and not enough
and
on facts.
Once you do that kind of thing where you are educated, I think you're gonna vote because now you're gonna feel invested in the community. You
Right.
feel confident. Like the kind of test you want to take is one where you're gonna ace it.
Right.
And we're talking
Yeah.
about one where you've invested in those relationships, and so you know who you're voting for. And for me, when I first moved here, I was active duty military, and so I was focused on training and getting ready to go out
Right.
the door and getting my family ready and all that stuff. And I remember the first year that we came in, I mean, I got a ballot a few months later, and I didn't know anybody, on that.
Right.
And I'm just like, well, that guy has a sign, and I think I saw this guy mentioned in the paper. I mean, it was tough. Like, and
Right.
I knew I didn't have time between then to vote, to make a
Right.
truly informed decision. And I was like, I've got to figure this out,
Right.
Now, the thing, and I know everybody, like, first name, I got texts from all of them, I go look on my phone, and there they are, like,
Yep.
telling me, like, hey, you want to meet up this time or that time, and, whatever. Like, so I know these folks,
Yeah.
right? Like, and it's even a little bit of that. Because, like, you get to know one candidate and you like them, they'll give you the whole lay of the land.
Right.
They'll
Yes, they
show
will.
you
And
around.
there's a
and
few
say,
of them that know the lay of the land.
Yeah.
Jerry Cooey is one of them. But
Yeah,
yeah,
get to
you're
know these
right.
guys.
There's you can
That'll
get
help.
to know some of these candidates, but yeah, I mean the bottom line is there's a lot that goes on in an election year to kind of try to manipulate the vote. Let's just
So
say
the part that grinds my gears, right, and that is the nicest way I can say that, is performative outrage. Okay, and what I mean by that is when people put on this show, right?
Right.
And you could just tell it's for the cameras,
Yeah.
right? It's this performative outrage, and a lot of times it's like national issues,
Right.
that have nothing to do with Santa Rosa County at all. Like, how is that going to help us, by
Right.
doing this? Is it going to help people with flooding? Is it going to help people with traffic congestion? Is it going to help people, get more efficient use of their taxes?
Right.
No, then what are we talking about it
Right.
for? Like, mention it, sure. Like, I have opinions on everything. Like, you can talk about abortion or transgender or whatever you want, and I'll give you my opinion on it. But a lot of times when we're talking about local government, you're not going to change that. That's the Supreme Court. You know,
Right,
if
right.
you were trying to go on Supreme Court,
Right.
I want to know exactly how you feel
Yeah.
about some of these issues,
Right.
But when we're talking about the county, what are you actually responsible
Right.
for, and what's the issues here? And there was an instance where I just feel like civility broke down this week. I've made so many trips up to the county, and I've seen people go back and forth, and seen people take sides and dug in. But I've never seen anything, Angie, like what I saw Monday, where literally you had commissioners getting up and just walking out in frustration.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're not paid to be here. Like, we're here to conduct business with you
Right.
guys. Like, this is your job. And you're walking out, and it's like, what is going on? Like,
It-
you're paid
it
to be
was-
here by us. By us. Like, if I did that, like, if I just got up and walked out of my job because I didn't like how things were going,
Yeah.
you know? And
I
just
watched that whole video last night, Wes. It
Unbelievable.
was quite embarrassing. The entire video was quite embarrassing.
Yeah.
I stopped after Kerry was Commissioner Smith was dealing with the 182 issues and the
Yeah.
issues, you know, around the county.
yeah.
Um,
And Chris had a comment here. He said, it does not matter what your party is when your home is flooded, right?
Exactly.
Like, and it's that kind of thing. It's like, if you want to grandstand and stuff and campaign and do all that kind of thing, like there's a place for that if that's what you want to do. But like, you got people who have real problems here.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where we're at with Navarre. Is I love Navarre to my core. You know, it's our home and we chose it and we love it. But like you said, the quality of life is struggling. It's
It
starting
is.
to because of all
It
the
is.
development, because so many people have moved here. Like myself, I'm the first one to acknowledge, hey, me coming here adds more of a burden on the infrastructure. That's why I'm prepared to pay to try to fix it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And the infrastructure in Navarre is struggling when it rains. Traffic is a problem. Businesses are struggling because now it's like all becoming franchises. A lot of your mom and pop shops are struggling and they
Right.
need help getting their name out there in
Right.
publicity and things like that. Those are the issues we need to be talking about.
Yeah.
Not the
Well,
craziness that we see.
And another issue we haven't even talked about is these homes that are going up in 2 to 3 months. Sometimes they're under roof in a month.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody living in them within 2 months.
Yeah.
And we saw all the ads this week from nationally of one of the largest home builder in Santa Rosa County.
Yeah.
The homes that are just falling apart. So you've got people that are living in those homes.
Right.
They're putting everything they've got into those homes.
Yeah.
You know, and then
It's just- yeah.
God help us when a hurricane hits.
Right. And it's like,
homes are not built right and flooding, and you guys,
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys are getting out of here. I'm way up north. Way
well,
up
it's
north.
like that's something that the county can affect.
Right.
That's my point, right?
Yep.
It's like I had Chris on the show, and he was like, here is some ways that the county and the state can work together in order to install some drainage systems, right? And he even like broke it down on specific streets,
Right.
right? He's like, these are some things that you guys can do to solve this problem. Traffic and all that kind of stuff. There are some real things, some choices they could make
Yeah.
that would help, you know? But I don't
And
know
you
what
know-
we're doing here, you know, when we're and sometimes it's national issues, in which case, like I said, if they can fix that, then they need to be doing a different job. If
Yeah.
you got the answer on
Right.
that, then like going up there to and being, you know, the administration and help them. But sometimes it's just petty personal squabbles, and that's what you saw here that I think
Oh,
caused
that was
the other commissioners to get up and walk out because they're watching it's like a national, you know, debate, partisan debate wrapped up in a local issue, you know,
Right.
that affects literally no one except those two guys.
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And the constituents not coming up asking for services. They're, you know, they're wanting to fight you and debate you. And
Right.
it's like there's another time to do that.
Well, and
you
again,
know?
that's
Crazy.
another division
Crazy.
in the county of a Republican Democrat, you know,
Yeah.
and that's we certainly don't need that. But you see it at the county, you know, it's been
Yeah.
publicized from the diocese multiple times. Just the you know
Yeah.
trashing other citizens of this county.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just don't understand how people. I've just never been like that, you know. And I grew up. Listen, I grew up in some of the most conservative, just
Yeah.
plain Jane neighborhoods. I mean, very country, and I could have come out of that with biases, you know. And I've got friends of every color, every stripe, you know. I
Yeah.
mean. I just don't understand how people treat other humans the way some people treat other
And
humans.
it's like we
I
got to
just
get
don't get
back
it.
to the basics of human interaction.
Right.
We've got to get back to an education process. We've got to get back to the
Yep.
fundamental principles of what America
Yeah.
is. There's one other cause that really relates to that I think you're a part of, which is Freedom Quest. And I really
Yes.
wanted to end on this tonight because I had David Glassman on the show as well.
Yep.
See what I'm talking about? Like all these amazing people.
Yeah.
I had David Glassman on the show talking about this. He talked about A Hero for a lot, but then he talked about what he's planning with Freedom Quest, and I know you're part of this. And so when we talk about re-engaging civility and respect, we talk about education, we talk
Right.
about getting people involved in what's going on. This, to me, is one of the brightest stars in that regard that's trying to do that, not just during election season,
Right.
but all the time.
Right.
So tell me how you got involved with this, and where you see it going.
Well, actually, the way I got involved and connected with Dave Glassman was I was at the county commission at a planning and zoning meeting, and there was a really sad case going on. I won't even bring up what the particulars were, but it was the two sides were fighting, but yet they were agreeing on most everything.
Yeah.
And so I just walked up to the microphone and I said, I think we can solve this.
Right.
We're not hearing each other. We're
Right.
not listening to the other side. No, I want my way.
Right.
And so it worked out. It didn't work out to everybody's, perfect the way they wanted it. But there were some compromises made. It had gotten very heated. And the next week I got a phone call from Dave Glassman, or Connection. And so he asked if I would meet with him. And I went and sat down and met with him and Jeremy Clark. And we're the leadership team now at Freedom Quest. And they said, we like the fact that you don't go up there and just punch somebody in the face. And that's not ever been my intention. My intention was to try to use common sense and rationale and reasoning. And why are you guys doing this? Nobody trusts you. Nobody's liking you. I mean, why? Why don't we just do the right thing, and then everybody will like you, and we can all get along, and we can all work together. And so anyway, they asked me, they said, we like your style. We like that you actually want to engage people and have conversations, that communication, that you want to hear the other side and you want to figure out how we can make this work.
Right.
It's not about me getting my way. It's about how can we make this work and everybody feel like they have a voice and everybody have a part in it. And so that's what Freedom Quest is. It was based out of, it was started originally, and Dave may have mentioned this, on the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah.
I was not involved that year. It was very much a tribute to 9/11.
You talked about that. Yeah.
And all of the people that lost their lives. Dave can spit out those statistics, just without breathing almost. And if anybody that doesn't know Dave Glassman, he has such a heart for people and such a heart for the military. But it was really born. It was really the idea of Freedom Quest was 9/12. So 9/12, after we were attacked, we forgot that we were Democrat, Republican, black, white, whatever.
Yeah.
We were just Americans again.
Yeah.
And neighbors ran to help neighbors, and they didn't say, knocked on your door and say, "Are you a Democrat? Oh, I'm not going to help you."
Right.
Or, "Hey, are you a Republican? No, I don't want to talk to you." No, they just helped each other.
Right.
And so that's how Freedom Quest was born. That's the premise of it, is for us to start acting like Americans again. Because, again, our last election nationally was split almost 50-50.
Right.
We are a divided nation, and the Bible says a house divided against itself will fall.
Right.
And so if we don't start coming together, talking to each other, working these things out, and working together against the evil that is really out there, we're not evil amongst ourselves. The evil is out there, that the power that's trying to control us, that's trying to change this country. And if we don't start working together and just lay our biases down and lay our hatreds down and start coming together, having those conversations and making and starting to heal this nation. And that's what we desperately need, is we need healing. We don't need people taking sides and tearing each other up and ripping each other to shreds. So Freedom Quest, it has been, every year we've had a music festival. The first one, of course, was rather large in Pensacola. Last year it was at the Rex Theater. It was a wonderful event that was thrown together, but turned out beautifully. And from that, we had enough people out of that got interested in it and saw what it was about. So this year we've got a great team that we've put together that just came to us basically and said, "Hey, I want to be a part of that." And on September 20th and 21st, we have a big event. It's going to be a 2-day, 4-venue event this year. So Friday morning, we'll be doing a workshop at Marcus Point with some songwriters that'll be working with military veterans and first responders that have suffered some trauma. they do some therapy with that and get their story out, and then they'll be performing that down the street here at Gulf Breeze at High Point Church on Friday night.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday morning, the Infidels, which is a motorcycle club, they are going to do a poker run for A Hero, which is another one of Dave's projects.
Yeah, I talk about that a lot.
And they're going to end at the Wild Horse or Moonshine Saloon. I'm back in Nashville, the Wild Horse.
Yeah.
Moonshine Saloon on the west side of town.
Yeah.
And we will have Dave Bray USA, who's from Madison Rising. He was that's one of the stars from Madison Rising. Dave Bray is such a patriot, such a wonderful American, and just solid. He was military as well, and he's a singer-songwriter. And most of his songs, he's got one out called Last Call. If you haven't seen it, you need to watch it. It's about the police officers. Yeah. And so Dave Bray will be coming in. He's our headliner. We'll have several other musicians there. And along with that, then we'll have the bikes, and we have the Jeep Club is coming. And then we're going to have an education section. Dave likes to call it a constitutional empowerment section. And we're going to try to we're trying to form an environment where people can come and talk about the issues without all the hatred and vitriol.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That we can come and sit down, and whether you're Democrat, Republican, don't care about any of it, whatever, we can just have a conversation and say, yeah, man, this sucks. What are we going to do about it? And hey, you know, and then because you hear so much, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, you can call your county commissioner. You can write them a letter. You can go to the BOCC meeting. You can do so many different things.
Right.
You can vote. You know, there's so many different things, even at the state level and the federal level.
Yeah.
And the more pressure they get, and there's statistics to it. I don't keep track of the statistics for every letter they get. They think that's so many people that represents. But if people would get involved, Wes.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to do a lot.
Yeah.
It's not going to take your whole week. You don't have to get involved like I got involved or like you got involved, but do something.
Right.
I said if every citizen in this county would just do one thing a month, this county would totally change.
Yeah, I agree. And this is one of them, right? Getting involved here. What I love about this, from talking to you and David, is you've kind of got two parts to this. You've got like the history, especially like the Constitution, the American founding, how we became a country, the principles behind it, right? And understanding where those came from and why, which was born out of a lot of compromises, right? The anti-federalists were the ones who were talking about the Bill of Rights. The Federalists were the ones that were building the Constitution, right? The Declaration of Independence came out of all the colonies coming together and dragging Rhode Island along the way because I didn't want to be a part of it, right? But they figured out how to do that and come together. So it was a lot of people from different backgrounds talking about how do we come together and agree on our principles that can unite us all, right? So they did that in those documents, and that was the founding of our country that led to success. Right. Like you said many times, without that, you break apart. So you got that history and that education, also translating it to 2024. You know, what does that look like today? What are we talking about, right? Because we're not talking about muskets and stuff like that today. We're talking about very different issues that are in some ways more complicated. Right. Freedom of speech is very different on social media than it is like in their day. You know what I mean? You got a lot more mechanisms. Information flow is totally different. So how do you translate those issues to today and maintain the unity that makes this country an amazing one to be in? So thank you so much for being here. Like, this was a lot of fun. We covered a lot of ground.
Let me say September 21st from 3 o'clock until 8 o'clock. That's the show at the Moonshine Saloon. So if you can't make any of the other events, make sure you come to that event. There will be a station set up with our First Amendment, Second Amendment, medical freedom, multiple different issues that we'll be talking about in a fun kind of way, an entertaining kind of way.
Yeah, that'll be great.
To take down the vitriol and just to have some conversations and to give you stuff that when you leave there, you'll have something you can do if you want to get involved.
It's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
And if not, just come and enjoy the music.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we'll
there will be alcohol and food there as well.
Yeah. Important part of politics too. Well, thank you so much, Angie, for being here and being part of the show. Like I said, it's been a long kind of legacy now of amazing folks coming through, and I'm so happy to have you on it and be part of that.
Thank you for inviting me.
But so it's
I'm
a lot
glad
of fun.
I finally said yes.
Yes, yeah, I know. Like, she finally said she'd do it. So remember, you've got the core Facebook group that you can join. So Citizens Organized for Restoring Ethics. So jump in on that on Facebook if you haven't already. You can join that, kind of see her updates. I think you have an email that you send out, so you can jump in and sign up for that as well. And then Freedom Quest was the other big one to jump in on there, and stay tuned for events coming out in September.
And I did
else.
forget to mention, we got to talking about all this, but I do run an embroidery and print shop on the side as well.
Awesome.
So I've been able to help some of the candidates this year, and I'm glad for that. That was why I started it, was to be able to help the candidates.
Yes. So. Yeah. We'll have to have you back on. See? You have to be back on to show all that stuff. So thank y'all so much for watching live. It's always fun. I saw all the comments coming through. That really makes it a fun show. We do this every Thursday night at 7, usually go for about an hour. If you've got guests that you want to see on the show, you just let me know. We'll reach out to them. If you've got other thoughts for Angie, let me know. I'll be happy to share those with her. But we enjoy this. We enjoy hanging out with you guys. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next Thursday.